And welcome back to Creative Thinkers. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela, and as always, we bring you somebody special. But today, we have somebody that's actually going to teach us something. I'm very excited to welcome Dr. Rebecca Gregory. She is an advocate for SPED and SPED law. Rebecca, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Very, very excited to be here.
Well, I'm more excited. Why? Because I actually got a chance to meet you through this project that we're doing here at El Paso Community College. And one of the speakers was actually you. And you started talking about all of these ways to help people better understand individuals that have special, exciting, meaningful things to show us. So tell us what you do exactly.
So right now, I am a teacher in a self-contained special education classroom, and I have grades 6 through 12. So it sounds crazy, it sounds chaotic, but I promise it works. And we've become just this really inclusive, close community, and we all learn and teach. We all learn from each other and teach each other different things.
And what kind of things do you guys teach each other?
Patience.
That's important.
About music. I like to use music as an icebreaker. So I have this playlist that I have for the kids, and it's got everything from Fleetwood Mac to the Beastie Boys and Metallica and everything in between. So they get extra credit if they're able to name the artist and the song.
Oh, really?
And that's usually like our brain break. We're getting ready for an activity. So it's just exposure to things that they wouldn't have normally been exposed to, and they've exposed me to things that I never would have thought to think twice about.
I just had a really nice conversation today with the dean. We were talking about how we learn from our students, and I think that's one of the most important things that we can is start to gain knowledge from these individuals where we might think, or the general public might think, that they don't have anything to offer, but in reality they have so much to offer us. But before we get into all of that, we want to get a little bit of background of who you are, how you grew up, because obviously this show is called Creative Thinkers, and I interview creative people. As we can see, you're a creative individual. So what was your upbringing like, and how in the world did that influence what you're doing today?
So the successes that I have enjoyed as an adult, I credit all of that to my mom.
Okay.
And my dad, of course, absolutely. But I grew up very, very close to my mom. My brother and I were always encouraged to be true to ourselves, express ourselves in whatever way we saw fit. My mom is Italian and my dad is Mexican. So of course we're going to be raised Catholic, right? But my mom never really forced us to fit into that Catholicism box. And she let us explore religion and our identity as we saw fit. And she was nothing but supportive the entire time we were growing up. And so that really, really set the foundation for the confidence that I have today.
And when you talk about confidence, what exactly are you saying? Are you saying that you were able to make decisions like the way that people perceive you, the way that you act, your demeanor, maybe even your tattoos? Is that what you're trying to say with confidence?
Absolutely.
Or about confidence?
Not only just like the confidence with the way that I look on the outside, but the confidence to speak up about injustices and inequities, things that I didn't agree with, that I saw in my community, throughout the world, throughout society, not only when I was younger, but as an adult as well. And now I have the opportunity to use my voice for the greater good and for genuine change. And a lot of that stems from having the confidence to do it, having the confidence to know that not everybody is going to agree with you, but if you feel like something's wrong and something needs to be changed, you got to speak up, because if you don't speak up, nobody's going to know it's a problem.
Yeah.
And so having that self-assurance is paramount in everything that I do today. And again, I wouldn't have that self-assurance if I didn't have the confidence that my mother instilled in us when we were growing up.
That's awesome. And it's interesting that you mentioned your mom. Again, I had both parents, both Catholic, but I do not lean towards my mom, but I do see my mom as a very strong influence in my life as well. I know that she was the individual that allowed me to be as creative and as open as possible. She also taught me that when you have something to say, one must articulate this thing in order to better understand, or better have other people understand what you're trying to say. So I applaud the fact that you say my mom was the one that really kind of pushed all these ideas on me and whatnot. I see that you are a SPED advocate. What exactly does that mean?
So I was very fortunate to be able to further my education when my son received his autism diagnosis. And
And maybe you
when
can
my
give us a
son
little bit of background on what autism is.
Sure, autism, again, is just a neurological diagnosis that is most often characterized by difficulties with socialization, comprehension, and emotional understanding.
Okay.
And that's just to put it in the most broadest of terms possible. Um, when my son got his diagnosis, I am a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been able to raise Ethan, my son, with the help of my parents who have been phenomenal in helping me raise him, as well as my
Beautiful.
brother.
Mm-hmm.
And when he started his journey with the public education system, I realized how woefully underprepared I was to navigate special education,
Mm-hmm.
to navigate through the laws and the policy and everything that he was going to need to be exposed to, what was going to be part of his academic career,
Right.
at least through 12th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I was very, very fortunate to have the support from my family, and they encouraged me to go back to school for a double master's and then my double PhD in special education and autism.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I was able to learn and absorb through my academic journey, I have pushed back into the community. And I help parents not only find their voice, but hopefully encourage and help their children become self-advocates for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about sharing knowledge. It's about being a supportive community, because we are a very vulnerable demographic in the special needs community. There
In
are
which
not a whole lot
respect?
of resources.
In which
There's not a
respect?
lot of resources. There's not a lot of understanding. There's not a lot of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
It can be very lonely raising a child with a disability, and that's just me being brutally honest. A lot of times, friends that you've had, lifelong friends, don't understand the struggles that you go through raising a child with a disability, and it can be very, very isolating. And even more so when your child is struggling at school and you have no idea how to help them, and you take everything that the school tells you as gospel. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that's not true. And oftentimes the best interest of the child is not what's happening at these meetings for the development of their education plans. And so I try to help parents understand what their rights are,
Mm-hmm.
what their children's rights are, and how to create best practice and implementation for the most opportunity for success for for their children. So I go to these meetings with them, and I do everything pro bono, because this is
Beautiful.
all information that the school should be providing. But unfortunately, that's not a reality. That's not something that happens. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that every special education teacher is a terrible person. No, 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 that's not what I'm saying. Special education is, in general, a very broken system.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very broken system with not a lot of resources and not a lot of support. So as a parent, I want to ensure that other parents understand what they can do to help their child be as successful as possible in school.
Now, one of the things that we talked about was empathy. Do you believe
Mhm.
that there is a lack of empathy or a lack of knowledge? Or
Both.
both?
Absolutely, it's both. Oftentimes we see these pervasive behaviors manifesting in our neurodiverse population.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes it's mislabeled or misinterpreted as bad behavior. Oh, that kid is acting out. That's such a bad or
Right,
poor
right,
mannered child. And
right.
it's not even about the behavior. And it's something that I like to explain to people is all behavior is communication. They're not acting out to act out. They're not screaming randomly in class because they want to scream randomly. This is whether it's stimming, self-regulation, trying to process feelings and emotions, or whether it's them trying to communicate like, hey, I have a need. Hey,
Right.
I need something right now. All behavior is communication. And so even at the stores, and I've had many, many unfortunate experiences with the general public when my son was having a meltdown in public.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because he didn't get the toy he wanted. It wasn't because I told him he couldn't have ice cream. It was because he was in full on sensory overload and sensory overstimulation.
Mm-hmm.
The noise at Costco was too much for him.
Right.
The humming of the refrigerators was too loud. There was just so many people in such a small space. It really, really threw him for a loop. So
Hmm.
he had a meltdown and he threw himself on the floor trying to self-regulate. And I had multiple people threaten to call CPS.
Oh
I
my
had
gosh.
multiple people saying you need to spank that behavior out of your child. And again,
Wow.
that lack of empathy is very pronounced. And that was some years ago when my son was smaller, but even now, he's 15. We have had similar incidences. He's a very, very affectionate child,
Hmm.
and he is, oof, especially with the ladies. Still not sure where that's coming from. um, let's say, for example, we go to a restaurant
Uh-huh.
and he wants to hug the waitress and tell her she's beautiful. Sometimes you get somebody that's really patient, really empathetic and understanding. Other times you're like, don't touch me, like
Right.
control your kids.
Right.
And
Right.
so that empathy is unfortunately very, very widespread, and the patience and understanding is not as prevalent as one would hope to be.
And one of the things that I found is that part of that lack of knowledge instills fear in people. And a lot of these reactions come from this area or place of fear. What have you found in reference to that? Because I think that's a strong word, but I think it's something we need to address.
It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of what you
Correct?
don't understand. It's fear of what you don't understand. And if you have never been exposed to somebody with autism or ADHD or bipolar disorder or anything like that, any sort of diagnosis, you have no idea what to expect.
Exactly.
And fear of the unknown, until you understand the behavior, it can be frightening, it can be overwhelming.
Yes,
But
it
the
can.
one thing that I want people to try to push for is you don't know everybody's story. You don't have to have an opinion on everybody or what they're doing in public unless they're hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. Maybe look for somebody to help. But even then, don't judge what you don't know.
That's very true. And that's one of the things that I think that the lack of knowledge pushes people into this corner where the empathy is not there and then the judgment begins to come into play. What kinds of tools have you used in order for individuals, students, or others that don't have any idea about these special needs that one might need when talking about this group of individuals? What kind of tools do you use? How do you help
So
these
one of the
people
things
understand?
So one of the things that I've implemented here on my campus is the Future Educators Club. And this is comprised of my high school students, my 9th through 12th graders.
Okay.
And I pair them up with the students that are in my class, and they become peer mentors for my students.
Okay.
We have them go to classes together. We have them eat lunch together. We have them do fun stuff together. So it's not always such a structured activity. So it gives the general education, the neurotypical population, an opportunity to understand the struggles that the neurodiverse population goes through.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it gives them an opportunity to celebrate the victories with them, no matter how small, because every victory is a celebration. Every milestone is a victory. And I think that has really, really pushed the understanding, empathy, and patience
Mm-hmm.
with the neurotypical population here on my campus. And now I see them being genuinely inclusive with my students. And, there really is no tolerance for bullying. I have zero tolerance for it.
Mm-hmm.
And my high school students know that. And so whenever they see somebody being a little snarky with one of my students, and not just one of my students, but in general,
Mm-hmm.
they'll shut it down because they always say, and this is kind of one of my
Oh,
mantras,
what do they
don't
say?
judge what you don't know. They say,
True.
don't judge what you don't know. And I love that they've taken the time to really listen to that, absorb it, and implement it positively.
Have you noticed that the Gen Ed students are open to these new ideas, or they're still skeptical, but some are willing to try it?
So when I first had the idea of creating this platform for inclusivity, I was met with a lot of resistance and hesitation. And I was like, Becca, like, no, that's not gonna work. Like, no, it's gonna end badly. So like, come on, guys, just roll with it. Let me try it out. roll with it, go with it, see
A-
what happens.
And you're
And
talking about leadership, I would assume.
right, not only leadership but coworkers as well, other teachers. They were again very hesitant, and the my teacher colleagues would say, "Hey, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I don't know how to deal with a child with special needs. I don't know how to implement their IEPs, which is their individual education plan. I don't know
Okay.
what to do if they have a meltdown." And understandably so. Again, fear of the unknown, right? But
Right.
we did so in a very gradual process,
Hmm.
and it turned out to be one of the most beautiful things that I have seen blossom.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
there is here at the campus where I'm at, it's just everybody takes care of everybody. And my kids that are in my self contained class don't feel like they're in a different class because they have friends all over. And
That's cool.
I have really, really enjoyed seeing the progression of this program and seeing how well my students respond to those interactions with their neurotypical peers, right? And I'm using air quotes a lot because some of these terms are a little iffy, but
But they're also
what I
terms that most people don't understand. So this is great for
right,
educating.
right. So we use the term neurotypical for people that do not have a neurological diagnosis. And we use the term neurodiverse for those individuals that have a diagnosis of maybe autism or ADHD or maybe both, a combination.
Hmm. When I feel like I have ADHD, I've never been diagnosed, but I know I'm a super hyper guy. I know I do a lot of different things, and I have seen this as a positive, more like superhero ability. Now, are there students that you see within your student body that feel the same way? Because as a young kid, I mostly felt like I was an individual that didn't fit. You know, I was the kid that didn't do so well in school because I was always hyper and jumping around and stuff like that. But do you find that now, with more knowledge, more understanding, there are students that feel that way more as opposed to feel like outcasts to a certain degree?
Absolutely. And
That's
so
awesome.
again, that's one of the benefits of having my Future Educators Club, mentoring my students in my self-contained class.
Um,
One of the things that we see as a common characteristic of both autism and ADHD is hyper focus, especially when it comes to special interests. So when
hmm.
we do like these cross collaborative projects, and it just happens to be on the topic of one of my students' special interests,
Hmm.
they're usually the first ones to get picked for those group projects because,
That's
oh, so
cool.
and so knows everything
Really?
about the cell. This person knows everything about sharks, and they want to work with that person. And it also creates a positive environment
Right, right.
for my students to share their special interests and to be really hyped about it and to share that knowledge and do so in a way that is engaging for both sides.
So that's interesting because you take them from the side where they're not really connected to the gen ed and then
Mhm.
making them into these specialists, which I'm sure they love, right?
They love it.
I'm
They
glad
love it. It gives.
I'm glad that you're
What?
working with the students, and I'm very happy that you are trying to incorporate these two different worlds because I don't see them as different. I see them as parallel worlds seen from different points of view. And I think that if we all began to see them in that particular way, then we could be more accepting in many ways.
I absolutely agree. And that was one of the major goals that I had for implementing these programs and creating these inclusive environments is so we can get that mentality out to other people.
Hmm.
And you know what? Even the other teachers on this campus have changed their mindset and
That's
have
awesome.
evolved in their perception of a special needs student. They're like, you know what? Like, they're not that different. And they're not.
No, no.
They do things differently, sure, but that does not mean that they're not capable of accomplishing the same things. Things
Right,
just
right.
look different. And I think that neurodiversity is, the creation for humanity's greatest minds.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. So speaking about creativity, obviously, like I say, we're on a show called Creative Thinkers. I love interviewing people who are thinking outside the box. How important is creativity in what you do on a day-to-day basis?
It is crucial. It's absolutely paramount because having that creativity as a foundational component in my day-to-day instruction for my students, whether they're part of my neurotypical student group or whether they're part of my neurodiverse group, is paramount in getting them to understand not only their ability but to understand their resilience, understand their intuition, and to be comfortable in their own skin and really just love who they are
Hmm.
and be comfortable with showcasing who they are to the public and building those relationships based on genuine traits that each individual has.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, going from creativity to art, how important is art in what you do with your students? Does art help you bring across ideas, concepts? Does it help them grow in any way? Do you even use artwork in any way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as you can tell, and another reason that I think you might have wanted me on this show, I'm not a very traditional person.
I love it.
And so so a lot of my students, well, not a lot of them, but some of them don't respond to written mediums. They
Okay.
are not fans of writing reports or writing assignments or
Right.
writing sentences, what have you.
Right.
The way that they can experience or display understanding and mastery of a concept is
Right.
through art and drawing. So if they can create an art form in whatever medium
Hmm.
and explain it to me, that tells me that they are genuinely understanding the concept. So I also encourage the kids to be more open to how they express themselves and
Hmm.
how they express their understanding of a concept.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be the traditional way. You don't always have to do it in a notebook or in a PowerPoint presentation. You can draw and it has the same, if not a stronger effect on who you're sharing that information with.
I
And it's
agree.
about finding what medium or what learning style each individual responds best to and really honing in on that and helping them develop those skills as much as possible in a way that makes sense to them.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to, I guess, move and maneuver our way through the education system as best we can for them, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to benefit from this. Now, having said that, how have you seen your program benefit the individuals who you're helping? Can you give us some examples?
Sure. The students that I inherited when I started at this campus 3 years ago were not even doing basic addition and subtraction. They had little
Okay.
to no academic skill. And that was because there was that antiquated mindset. "Oh, pobrecitos, they're in special ed. Don't stress them out. Just let them be. They'll be fine. Let them watch
Hmm.
YouTube." Like,
Hmm.
I'm sorry.
That's what they would do the whole day?
Yeah, they would be given an
Oh my
iPad.
gosh.
They could watch YouTube and color and do whatever it is that they wanted all day. And I spoke up and I said, "How are we providing what's best for these students? We are doing a great disservice to them by not allowing them to explore their potential, by not exposing them to life skills to move towards independence, by not exposing them to things that their peers are being exposed to, whether it's through geometry, biology, or even the new Cardi B album." And I'm just throwing
Right.
that out there, but
Hmm.
I'm not a big Cardi B fan, but apparently they are. So just it's exposure to stuff like that they didn't have because there was that antiquated mindset that had put a cap on everything. "Ay, pobrecitos, leave them alone. They're fine. Don't stress them out. They don't need to worry about algebra."
Hmm.
So by the end of my first semester with the students that I inherited, they were doing multi-step geometrical equations.
What?
We had already read The Giver and we had started To Kill a
Wow.
Mockingbird.
Wow.
And yes, I am that person that brings in the banned books because I think they present great opportunities for dialogue and discussion, and these
Right,
are
right.
real world um, experiences that they need to understand too. So it's about finding the way that a student learns,
Hmm.
discovering their learning style,
Hmm.
and then presenting that material in a way that makes sense to them.
And you have seen that they
Changing the
see that.
manipulatives and the variables.
And you have
Yeah,
seen that they see that and understand these concepts, which is fantastic. Now,
Yes.
In the pre-interview, because that's one of the things that we do, I asked you to think about something that you can give us as advice that will help us in general. And I'm talking about whatever you want to talk about. Can you give us that advice?
I would say don't be afraid to think outside of the box. Don't judge what you don't know. When it comes to autism specifically, autism is not a tragedy. It's not a bad thing. Neither is ADHD. It's the ignorance that is the tragedy. It is the closed-mindedness and the lack of empathy and the lack of willing to understand how people interpret their day-to-day lives. That is the tragedy. And I would just encourage people to be more open to how they perceive people and be understanding, be patient. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what their day-to-day looks like. And what you consider to be normal may be something completely out of this world for somebody next to you, with or without a diagnosis.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And one last question, because we're out of time very, very quickly in this show. Was you having your child and understanding that they had been diagnosed in this way the catalyst for you to go out and want to teach more, want people to learn more about this?
Absolutely, it was. And, you know, I run my classroom through a really unique binary perspective. I look at it through an educator and a researcher's perspective. What is best practice? What is research-based implementation? But I also look at it from a parent's perspective.
Okay.
How would I want my son's classroom to be run? What do I feel is most beneficial? What do I think I can do to better the lives of each of these kids that have been entrusted to me? I spend more time with these kids than their parents do, you know, during the school year. We actually did the math one day, my class, and the numbers are crazy. So it's just knowing that these parents are entrusting me with the well-being of their child, and knowing that I need to deliver results. I need to make sure that I am doing everything that I can to make sure that their child is happy, healthy, learning, progressing, understanding and exploring their potential, and becoming as independent as possible.
And for you, I think that's your ultimate goal. And for us here as educators, I think it's also the goal for us to help them move forward in their lives any way that we can. And it's also important for us to teach them the most that we can with the time that we have with them. And that's one of the things that I try to do. I try to encompass everything that is life around me teaching them through art appreciation and drawing and all the other classes that I teach. So I'm very, very excited to have met you, had the time to sit here and talk to you. And I want to thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome. And I really hope that all of your listeners and your audience got something positive out of this.
I think they will. I think it's fantastic that an individual like you exists and helps people better understand the needs for others.
Thank you for that. That means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So I want to thank all of you guys for for coming back and watching Creative Thinkers. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela, and if you guys have anybody that you think I might need to interview, please make sure to contact me via mvalen31@epcc.edu. Also, you guys can watch us on YouTube, and if you guys want to connect with me, please go ahead and email, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.